This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the December 20th, 2021 regular council meeting to order at 7 p.m. Meeting called to order. If everyone could rise, I ask that we rise and do the pledge of allegiance.
Yes. Right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, it's good to be back in the chamber, and unfortunately, we have one of our council people ill tonight. So, but she's called in. She's on the virtual meeting on phone. So, anyway, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda tonight?
I have one addition. You'll see it before you. It's a resolution to go along with the IGA of Columbia County. It's just the formal approval process. I neglected to put it in the packet, and so you have it before you as an addition.
Okay. Any other additions or corrections?
Did we want to add in the snow plowing thing, Josette?
Yeah, I didn't get a legal answer back, but we could discuss it.
On the snow plow?
On the, so new business,
D?
yeah, D.
What do you want to call it? Plow?
No plowing.
Snow removal
Snow readiness.
or something.
Any other items? If not, anyone like to make a motion to accept the agenda with the one addition or two additions?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Counselor Ash?
Aye.
Counselor Webb?
Aye.
Counselor Allen? Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Counselor Norman?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any presentations tonight? None. Okay, we'll move right into the mayor's report. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to the end of the chamber, and hopefully we can continue on meeting in person. And it's good to be back and moving forward in this manner. We recognize the second meeting of every month. We recognize Citizen of the Month. And it was Councilor Allen's honor to select a citizen for the month of December. So I'll turn it over to JR right now.
Thank you. I selected this month Linda Hobart. She's been on my radar for probably about a year. The Jamboree kind of got in the way last time, letting those people cut in line. So I knew I'd do her eventually, but I've known Linda now for years, and I've always seen her pitch in and get dirty and muddy and help on everything. I mean, from cleanup to at the school. She's on the PEO, you call that, which helps scholarships for students. And just Linda's really supportive of all the money and effort and stuff, even the project that our mayor does. So I just wanted to recognize Linda for Citizen of the Month. I think if we had more Lindas, we'd have a lot better town. So congratulations.
Oh.
We'll get a picture after, okay? Unless you don't want to stay.
One of the things that I like about it, I think people are helping out the community, the weekend projects, nice to see everything.
Well, you've always had a smile on your face and working harder than I could, so you got a good one there, Rick.
I sure do. Yeah, I see a lot of people don't see, and especially where they're teaching. She does a lot of extra work to help out the kids, and so it's good. Okay, counselor committee meeting reports. I had one. I went to the senior board meeting last week, and there was several, I think there was 5 positions open on the senior board actually, and we were able to fill 3 at the last meeting. So that was good. So I did find out some information about my eligibility, or anyone's that holds an office is able to serve on that board. And so next month, even though I'm a liaison, I'm still eligible to be on the board, which I would like to do. So I think I'll be able to help them out next month. They were really excited to see the generator in place, and so that we now have a generator, and I believe, is it
I don't know that
still
they
needs to
start up.
electrified, right? Okay, well, it's close. Hopefully, maybe this week even, before the weather.
Got an email
Yeah,
from Mike today on another thing, so he's
It was a good meeting.
dead.
And again, they're going to open up, I believe, the dining hall in January for, I believe, 2 days a week for meals inside. So that's a good start for the senior center. And their funding with the at the thrift store was down a little bit, but it's been down the last few months. But still, they're doing pretty well considering the pandemic we're still in. And they, I think they got reorganized a little bit over there. And so they're doing well. So that's about all I have to report on the senior board, on the seniors.
That board, they appoint themselves, because usually these committees come to council, so just,
They're not a city committee. They're independent.
Yeah.
He's not a liaison to a city committee. That position was put to, sorry, not to interrupt you, but to interrupt you. That position was created when the senior center was being built as a way to keep council abreast of what's happening at the board. So it's really not the same function as all of the citizen committee liaisons.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just got excited.
Always looking for new members. Again, there's an age eligibility, 60 years or older, to be a part of that. And the dues did go up to $20 annually, so it's still very reasonable. Well, they have a really good group down there, and it's growing, and so I'm excited about it. Yeah. Are there any topics from the floor tonight?
I have none.
Okay. Well, we'll move right into consent agenda for acceptance. Consent agenda for approval. City council meeting minutes for December 4th, 2021. And we'll also do the city council meeting minutes for December 6th, 2021. Be found on page 1 through 7. Any questions or discussions on those 2 meeting minutes? Okay. Anyone like to make a motion to accept the 2 meeting minutes?
I'll move to accept the meeting minutes.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. You call the roll, please, Stephanie.
Counselor Norman,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Allen, Counselor Ash,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, moving right into unfinished business. Staff report, council work session.
This work session staff report is brought to you by me. It's notifying you of when the work session was scheduled for the sidewalk and loop. That date is January 24th at 6:30 PM. There's no action needed, it's just
Okay,
letting you guys know.
okay. 6:30, and is that Monday evening?
Yep.
Okay. 6:30. Okay,
Something.
go ahead, Jared.
I was reading that summary and I was just, got me to thinking, I wonder if we're really ready for everybody. I just wonder if we have more to hash out instead of having the city engineer and if we don't, I don't know if we're really that far along in a discussion to take the time of other people's time if we're haven't quite settled on a close line where we want to be maybe, but unless it's just for information.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
So one of the concerns and the reason why staff wanted to have those members present was oftentimes during these work sessions, council has questions of staff that we really don't know the finite answer to. And so rather than us either misguiding you guys or needing to go back to those people and ask them the question, they can be here for you guys to ask those questions, give you the correct answers, and you guys can give different scenarios and have that one-on-one discussion. So either way, their time is going to be spent. This way, you guys are getting the answer directly from the source and the correct answer. And you guys can, everyone can hash out what is legal, what's not legal, how the process works, the standing of the planner, the engineer, legal. That way, those people are here for you guys to ask those questions rather than us potentially misguiding you or not knowing the answer and then us having to come back with those answers.
Did you say they were going to be in person or?
The engineer's gonna be in person, Carrie will be online, and Ruben will be online. But by that time, we hope to have our snazzy new TV, which will be behind me. So you can still see them and have that interaction.
Maybe we could have an easel with blank paper
Yeah.
to start writing our,
Yep, and I'll have my laptop, so we'll be able to pull up the map. They'll be able to see the same thing you guys are seeing. So we'll be able to really have that brainstorming session. We, you, them.
I think we've discussed those issues, several times. I think we always kind of run into that aspect of, can we classify something as a category or something different, and how we could make a legal distinction. It's always been a question for us. I guess also what's probably fair game is the definitions of when there would be an exemption process for, first we decide if we're going to do that, but if there is, then what is it? How would we define it? And of course, the legal is probably going to be there. I don't know how it would be where our Title IX is pretty restrictive now. And if we were loosening that up, we might get some pushback that maybe the state's not going to allow that. We've heard that in the past, that kind of undo something that's already done. So
I just The reason I brought that up, I was in Josette's office the other day and we talked about it a little bit. And the more I talked about it, it seemed like the more questions that kind of popped up. And I just don't know if I don't think we're going to come to an absolute at this next meeting. We could, but I think there's a lot of questions. I'm going to be prepared for it.
Well, about the only thing we could come to is a general consensus. We don't make resolutions or ordinances in a workshop.
Like one of the things I was thinking of is someone's house burnt down, let's just say up on the corner above me, and it's 100 feet here and 100 feet there, they're on a corner. Is the insurance company going to pay the 60 grand or more to do the improvements? Or the homeowner that just had their house burnt down going to be on the hook for that?
Are you talking about the house that just burned down up on
No,
Louise?
I'm just talking hypothetically.
Okay.
So typically, if it's in the land use laws, the insurance company cannot dump it on the homeowner. But that's the exact kind of scenario that legal and the engineers can tell you what they've seen in the field. That will be actual examples from other communities. That's why we wanted them here, because those kind of things, what I understand is just like when our flood ordinance, if someone has to elevate their home, the mortgage company is required because of our flood ordinance to allow them to put that cost on the back of the mortgage by state law. But those are the kind of scenarios that those professionals can.
So
And
can Stephanie or you or somebody pull out the sections that pertain to this that we currently have in Title IX, put it in a packet and send it out?
I can give you, my recommendation would just get to give you Title 9-06, this 104 specific to sidewalk. Otherwise, you're going to get the entire 300-page document.
Is that going to include sidewalk, curb, and street improvements? Or does that just say sidewalk?
That's the sidewalk specific section, but the street improvements are mostly in the public works standards. So it's really the two entire documents, and it is. But the specific to sidewalks, when you build a house, whether or not you have to put in sidewalks is specific in 9-04 to pinpoint this house burning down. Unless their house burns down in entirety and they're ripping everything out and putting in a new foundation, they would not be subject to the sidewalk requirement.
They wouldn't trigger it.
No, it's only if they build, it's literally linked to a new foundation. If they rip it all out and say, I want to build a bigger house, or I'm going to do a manufactured home instead this time.
You know, sometimes the heat is hard on the concrete. I don't know if they make them rip it out or not, so. You have to do a little.
It's hard to know every scenario for house burning. I don't know.
Everyone's going to be different.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's just like a couple of thoughts that popped up, because I know Councilor Webb was concerned about people's house that might have a tragedy. And then on top of that, here's a $30,000 to $60,000 bill. Thank you very much.
Well, that's something we're going to discuss in our workshop for sure. Hopefully we'll have more of a period of time where those questions could be definitely answered. So might take a couple workshops too. Okay, unfinished business.
I don't know if you feel from the.
Go ahead, Richard.
Chair, will you tell me that maybe please don't even have a basket of all the questions you want to ask this week? I mean, like, is the question that's not been developed?
Well, I think we're going to have some discussion on it, Richard, on 24th of January. And anytime council gets together, sometimes somebody brings something up and it triggers, oh yeah, we didn't, we didn't think of that.
Right.
So then there's times where we're in discussions and we're like, well, we need to get with Bill on that, or we need a question answered. And then sometimes it might take a month or two to get back to us. In the meantime, we've kind of forgot what we were talking about. So what I'm just saying is I don't want to waste their professional time.
Sure.
But if they're just on the web and we're paying them, I guess it's okay. Maybe it'll help move it forward faster. I'm just worried about, I'm not sure, in my mind, I was prepared for curb and street improvements, which is ripping out rock, hauling rock, bringing new rock in, paving it, and all the details of that. I was, in my mind, I was talking about getting some sidewalks in this town for the kids, so maybe the new developments, some rules on that, but there's some issues there that we've got to consider too, how they're getting around the development issue, so.
I just wondered what other small towns have do this. Can you get a list of their questions? Oh, yeah, we gotta ask.
Well, that's part of our homework. That's part of my homework I'm going to be doing, is talking to some other communities and getting some information, what works and what's not working and what they're charging and what they're not charging, and try to make a real informed decision on this. I think the parking issue, if you remember back, talked about that for years off and on. And I think we all come together and got a good resolve on that, but it took a lot of work. So to me, this is a bigger issue than the parking. So I don't think we're going to be able to do it. We've worked on this now for, I don't know, a year off and on. So I was happy that my fellow counselors here decided to table this and slow it down a bit and think about it at a workshop. So that's where we're at, Richard.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business. Committee liaisons. And go ahead, Stephanie.
This report is also brought to you by me at the request of council. As you'll see on the report, there's a list of the current assignments. And if you guys want to switch it up, or in Teresa's case, pick a committee for the first time, if any become available, then now's the time to do so.
For myself, I think looks like we have one vacancy for Parks Committee. And that's what Counselor Williams held, that position. And so they've been without a liaison since September. And so there hasn't been a good communication between council and that particular committee. And I myself personally, I think because I've been on the library board the last couple of years, I think I'd like to remain on that board. I work well with them, and I also like to remain on the senior board as a liaison for the senior board. Unless somebody else wants the library, I'd be willing to take that on again for another year at least. So anybody interested in the Parks Committee?
I'd be happy to take on the Parks Committee unless someone was looking to switch what committee they have.
Very good, Counselor Ash. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Everyone's fine with the committees they're on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't heard from the cemetery committee in a couple of months. I asked them to reach out to me if they were going to have another meeting. So I hope I'm not missing them, but.
They might be in your email. I believe they had one last week. I'd have to verify. Do you want me to forward your phone number?
Still locked out of the email. I never got the text thing from the tech.
Would you like me to forward your phone number to the committee?
Yeah, I gave it to them, but you can, yeah.
Okay.
Call Angie, she'll figure it out for you over the phone.
What's that?
It's probably that two
It is.
verification process, the two
It is.
factors.
Oh, yeah.
I called her up, she talked me through it, it's not hard.
Okay, any other discussion on liaison duties?
Are all of these the ones that we have, Rick, or is there some that are not filled besides these?
No, that's it.
That's all of them.
That's it. How often does the airport
I haven't heard nothing out of them and it's pretty
Once a year.
small.
If
Group.
needed. They're more on an as-needed basis, because otherwise during COVID, so before I was making them get together just so they would meet their every 6 months requirement. But then that kind of died off during COVID. And at this point, they'd be convening to convene and then go home. They have no business.
Yeah.
Can I ask, does anyone know when the Parks Committee generally meets?
I believe it's the fourth Wednesday, but I will send you that information tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Sheree, for stepping up with that opening.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving into new business. IGA for Columbia County inmate crew.
So we were talking when we have abatement come up with code enforcement. It's pretty time consuming and financially consuming for us to drag Public Works to help with code abatement. So what the county's been doing with other cities is allowing for an intergovernmental agreement to use their inmate crew. And so that's what you have in front of you is the draft agreement that the county would like the city to sign. And then ultimately, you guys would authorize me to sign it and you would adopt this resolution to document that we have an IGA so we could find it. The future us could find those agreements. Legal didn't see any issue with the way the IGA was written out or our expectations or their expectations. And we don't foresee them being used a whole bunch, but there are going to be some coming up that we know are going to be some trash and debris removal that we'd like to have this in place so that we could use them for that.
We actually have an abatement warrant ready to go to the courts right now that we're just waiting for an avenue to clean up at this point before we submit that warrant to the courts.
Have we ever entered into an IGA with Columbia County before?
Yeah, well,
Several,
yeah,
but not specific.
not specific to using the inmate crew. I believe during the flood, it was an emergency one. So it wasn't this kind of setting it up for the next 3 years as an opportunity to use it. It was more of a, oh, we need them, let's sign this quick back to the napkin version during the flood cleanup.
So the daily fee was pretty, the $375 day fee, has that increased over with inflation and everything?
I don't believe so. I think it really covers the person overseeing them
Yeah,
and a stipend they can earn.
I don't believe, I think it was roughly the same price. We did use them one time before on a house on Missouri. And I think it was roughly the same price as it was then. And that's been 12, 13 years.
Yeah, yeah,
And that worked out well for the city.
yeah.
And we also have the abatement fund
Yeah, to pay for that.
to pay for that, so it wouldn't have.
Everyone read it?
Operating fund.
Yeah, I read it. I think it's great. I'm gonna have some teeth to back up these multiple citations or multiple warnings.
Yeah.
So my question is, the fee for that, does that get billed back to the offender? And then also the dump fees and stuff that come with it, or how's the county handle that?
Well, so the dumping would go in the, as long as it's not hazardous, we have a franchise agreement with Waste Management. So in those cases, we notify Waste Management, we're dumping at the dump, our own transfer station. We have the code, we let them know we're putting debris in the 30-yarder and they're fine with that because we don't pay for garbage as part of our franchise agreement with them. What was the first question? You said something about the dump, and so I got on that.
The fee for the county charges, are they going to get billed for it?
So typically, what the ones that we've done have had a lien on the property
Right.
in the amount that we incur.
And I believe the fines that were previously attached to that would go toward that property lien as well.
Yeah. So we have a legal lien on the property, so.
So once this is in place, if it passes tonight, and there's a code citation, what's the timeline they have until a letter goes out that the county's going to come in?
It can be fairly lengthy process because we're still going to follow our original process from the date of first notice where they're going to get a couple of weeks for corrective action. They fail there, we issue a citation, then it's going to come to the courts. And the courts is going to make their decision as to whether or not they're going to give them more time, which has been the practice is they always give them more time to fix the issue. But we're pushing through kind of an abatement order at that time that if it's not cleaned up by this date, then we can go and abate the property. And that's a process that we've kind of just tweaked recently to where we're getting the judge involved in that, having that abatement order already. So
you're talking, it's a 3 to 6 month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then we still have to write the warrant and they're multiple pages and those warrants take a lot of time to write and get ready and then they have to be reviewed by the courts.
I sure hope we can do something, not to pick on people, but geez, can you imagine living next to some of these places? It's not fair to the rest of the citizens that some of these junkyards have went on for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or more. They just always have been shambles. So I'm pretty excited to read this, actually.
And part of the IGA protects even the 4 or more workers from the county with the hazardous waste. I mean, they're protected too.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the agreement.
Yeah, I see where they have to stop, but I mean, you're going to find paint, oils and everything else on almost every property here. So they're probably.
We've took a bunch of photos of one recently another one that we're working on that there's hypodermic needles everywhere. So that's going to be an interesting one to clean up.
Different kind of hazard.
So, anyone like to make a motion to just move forward with this resolution? And then move that staff sign the agreement?
Yeah, I want to make a motion first to authorize me to sign it and then.
Yeah. All right.
That's okay.
I'll make the motion to have the city authorize the city administrator to sign the IGA with the Columbia County Community Justice Division work crews.
So moved, Counselor Webb. Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Counselor Allen. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Counselor Ash,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Webb.
Aye.
Counselor Allen.
Aye.
Counselor Norman,
Aye.
motion carried.
You want to save resolution 2021-21 for the resolution period time?
You just do it now,
Or, okay,
just for the IGA.
okay.
She needs a motion.
Yep.
I'll make that motion to adopt resolution number 2021-21. Resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement with Columbia County for Community Justice Division work crews.
So moved by Counselor Webb. Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Norman seconded. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Norman,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Ash,
Aye.
motion carried.
Stephanie? Staff report allocating ARPA fund. Down to page 15. Rosette?
This is a joint effort between Angie and I.
A lot of boring reading.
So we are proposing that we use some of the ARPA funds to finish the weed, in this proposal specifically, the Weed Avenue storm water improvement, which is the installing of the pipe, boring underneath the trail to discharge into the Nehalem and divert the water that's going to Bear Creek to the Nehalem, the storm water. In the ARPA criteria, there's a lot of specifics that we have found now, ideas we had originally with council for equipment that does not fit the specific criteria. So what we're proposing is we use the ARPA funds to put in the stormwater. We use the funds we allocated for stormwater to pay for the things that don't meet the criteria, as council discussed. So do you guys have questions?
Is this the contract price that you thought was way too high? We were going to do it ourselves a couple of months ago.
Well, we were going to do it not only by ourselves, but collectively with ourselves and Mr. Watts at the time. His busyness just went through the roof. So he was unavailable to help. And then we were like, okay, well, we need to go out for bid. We went out for bid. We were kind of flabbergasted at the bid. But then we were even more flabbergasted at the second bid, which was almost double.
That was more than double. It was 100,000 more.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was like 140.
It was 180.
Oh, okay.
We thought part of it was.
Oh, right,
but it
right.
was, yeah.
So the 79's not looking so bad because the other bids came in astronomically higher.
What did we budget for in our budget for that this year?
No, we probably just had a bunch of money in contract services in the sewer fund, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to grab my budget.
Yeah, I don't remember if we called out specific numbers for specific projects.
So when we bid those, that was in the fall, summer, fall period,
No,
No,
the
it was
one
like
we
a
just,
month ago.
yeah, the one we just got back.
just a month ago, and it's 100 grand more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've already rebid this again.
What do you mean rebid it?
No,
No, we put it out for bid. The bids came in timing apart. One was September, Lida was
it
September.
was late September. It was probably after that. It was probably October. I think
Okay.
they were about a month apart.
Yeah, a month apart. I don't know that if we went out to bid again, we're going to get anything differently. Potentially, we're going to get worse because none of these people are hurting for work. They're all super busy and can really throw whatever price at the wall they want in this industry.
Yeah, I wonder though, the timing of our bid was in a very high activity period. Everybody's trying to finish up their summer, fall project. I'm wondering now with the weather, if not,
Nope,
still hasn't slowed
still
down.
Lida,
crazy.
I mean, the one that we got, it was late October when I got that from him.
So was Mr. Watts's equipment capable of doing this project?
He would have had to get equipment,
He would have had, yeah.
upsize rental.
Upside.
And I think the depth of the trench was also an issue with our guys and Watts. It's going to be deeper than what.
Right, it's going to be.
Over their head.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
figuratively and.
So it's over our work crews' heads to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way
At
bigger
least 10
project.
feet deep.
Well, I mean, one's an equipment issue, the other's, I mean, if we go too deep, then you're running into the cave in.
Right, they're going to have to put in bracing to do it.
I was just.
Whatever kind of. Yeah.
Movable flooring.
The connections.
Oh, yeah, they'll have to do that.
I mean, one option was we could rent the equipment ourselves, but we probably wouldn't have all that stuff. And then I'm concerned about staffing.
Right.
We don't have people to run said equipment, so.
Pump jacks are easy to run.
Well, and that kind of concerns me though, because we're talking about buying that kind of equipment. So
That was a thought.
people are equipment operators or they're not, you know, and
No, yeah.
a
So
traco is a traco pretty much. So
my question is how much ARPA funding do we have left for this year
All of it.
Well,
to use
10,000.
10,000.
before we go into the next season?
We gave 10,000 to Columbia County, but other than that, we haven't spent any.
Well, the Columbia Economic Team.
Right.
Yeah.
We could use 80 out of 240 or whatever.
Yes.
And then when do we start the fiscal year? In January, we start over?
No,
Oh,
fiscal year's in,
July?
yep,
Okay.
end of fiscal year is June 30.
And is this a good time to be putting it in?
Yeah, we're not so worried about this over here, only because it's pretty, the strata's pretty sturdy. It's not like other areas where we're going to hit all clay. And so it's not a difficult job. You just, to get it done quickly and efficiently, that you need a company that's got the right equipment, shoring, manpower to do it. We have all the supplies. We have the manhole, we have the piping that we have moved to the sewer treatment.
So did they want 79 just for installation? We provide the materials?
Mhm.
Including rock.
No,
No,
rocks in the bid.
we just supply the manhole and piping.
They'll be,
They'll do all the
They'll do all the
backfilling.
back, yeah.
Yeah,
because rock's going to be
That's what-
probably close to 10
That's the
grand.
labor cost.
And there's no paving, patching or anything?
no,
Oh, we were,
Because paving's another project.
we were scheduled, that's on the,
that's on SCA.
yeah.
It'll come after.
I understand that, but from the intersection down, but are they tying it up here or are they tying it to the?
No, they're tying in at the intersection,
Okay.
because that's that last manhole where we saw it rushing. They're coming back to that manhole. A Cougar.
Cougar, not Maple.
No,
Yeah, Cougar. So
Okay.
West Oregon and the Health Center
yes.
section, yeah.
Remind me again what this is going to alleviate.
So currently, the health center in West Oregon, their retention ponds that treat their stormwater that comes off the roofs go back and dump into Bear Creek. There's a valve at the end of that piping that will be turned off and force it to come back this way and discharge that West Oregon, the health center, and the senior center's retention ponds after treatment, after they filter through, to the Nehalem. Because that was what was causing the low-lying flooding down here on Bear Creek, is when these new roofs went in and they shed so much water so fast, they piped it thinking, oh, we'll just pipe the treated stuff to the Bear Creek. Well, Bear Creek can't handle 15,000 square feet of roof in a downpour, that water coming into a pipe into that teeny creek that's this wide in some people's backyards.
So I'm going to ask a question. It might be a little silly, but I want to make sure we ask it. Is the EPA going to throw a fit over running a discharge pipe straight into the?
It's not straight into, it's after they've gone through their treatment. So how each one has a retention pond on the sidewalk, right?
I
Some of
understand.
them are fenced, the health centers isn't, the senior centers is behind their own
Yep.
building. That's the treatment. It will also have shoring on the bank side of the Nehalem, so it's not just washing away. In the plan, it has a whole rock kind of outcropping it has to trickle through, so it doesn't just become a hose that's jetting the edge of the bank to nothing. It's all been designed and
I think I said EPA, maybe I meant DEQ. Who's in charge of that? Waterways in Oregon, DEQ, right?
yeah, it's already been approved, engineered and approved through them.
Okay.
The plan.
That's all I want to make sure we didn't get started. And what are you guys doing dumping water over?
No, that's, once we had the plans and we got the sign off, the engineer got the sign off letter back, then that's when we went out to bid. Because you can't do that ahead of all of those things being approved for the contractor to move forward.
It'll really lighten up the Bear Creek load.
Yeah. The other thing that also will slowly over time even lighten it also is what happened simultaneously is those two buildings got built and they logged this watershed up here, right? They logged so there was nothing soaking up the rain. So it was coming down behind the cedar mill into that valley. And then we're sending all this stormwater to it, and it's all trying to go through people's backyards kind of simultaneously. So as the replant of that stuff starts growing and absorbing some of the water, and we take the human element out of it, Bear Creek should go back to just having what it normally has and not extra.
Where does the stormwater flow to on the other side of the highway? Does it all end up over in Bear Creek from the people up Cougar area, or can we connect it to this system?
Well, so the Bear Creek runs right behind City Hall.
Right.
So ODOT has a trash gate on the other side of the highway that catches big debris, but that whole valley comes down to Bear Creek. From Bridge Street to the plateau up on Noakes, that is one watershed.
That's what I was thinking. If we can divert some of that.
They wouldn't want us to divert what's naturally coming down, because in ODF and W and DEQ's version, that is okay. That is natural. What we did with the roofs is the unnatural part of adding to it. They wouldn't want us to divert anymore because this is actually fish bearing, right? We've seen fish come up. So they wouldn't want us to mess with how much is coming down naturally. They would love us to mess with how much we're putting in there unnaturally. If that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Well, any other, go ahead, Don.
I see it's going to help, but I don't think it's going to resolve the whole issue.
Well, the other thing that we had talked about so there's kind of a perfect storm with the ODF and W, Bear Creek, Rock Creek, fish habitat or passage barriers, all of that, springboard, all of that is kind of the same perfect storm. So in our walkthrough with them about diverting this roof water to the Nehalem, we talked about how the different culverts and the different settlings along the Bear Creek, we walked the whole Bear Creek, how people have filled in their backyards and it's neck down to about 1.5 feet. Eventually, all those things will have to also be kind of addressed. So people will have to, we will fix what culverts we can and access the steel plate becoming a box culvert once we do at Adams. Once we do the springboard will help because we'll widen it there. It won't be just a steel plate with it's going to take a few years with a few different projects to really solve the issues with that. One of the other things we had talked about is where the county owns kind of across from Mr. Perro's house. There's some properties there. We've discussed with Upper Nehalem Watershed Council about potentially getting hydrologists to create kind of a swale or a place where we can hold when the flash kind of storms come, to see if that would benefit, if we could kind of fashion that county property into some sort of holding swale to take the water. There's also kind of the drop off at Bear Creek right there on Jefferson and Mr. Perro's property. That drop off, he's gotten permission from the state to pull some of that riprap out that's causing kind of a big waterfall there. So it's a lot of different pieces ultimately before it's a solved thing. You're right.
What was the initial bid back in September?
It's this one.
Oh,
This was the first one that we were kind of like,
okay.
wow, that's a lot, until we got one that was even more than double. So at first we were like, that seems like a lot. And then we were like, oh, well, that guy seems reasonable compared to the next guy.
And I sent that bid, the original bid, to the engineer just to get their feedback, and they said it seemed pretty legitimate.
Yeah.
Well, how many feet of pipe is it?
Oh, man, I'd have to I don't have the plans right
Quite a
here.
bit.
Like 400 feet, is it more than that?
I don't think is it that much?
They're on my desk.
Yeah, go grab it. She'll grab it because I don't have it memorized.
Josette, you mentioned boring. When we talked about doing it ourselves, we were just gonna cut a hole through the.
Well, the contractor could choose either, right? They could cut the trail and put everything back as is, or if it's easier for them, they could bore it.
Boring is way more expensive because you gotta dig a huge pit, set the bore machine down in, drill a hole. I mean, I don't know why they would want to do that unless it was,
Yeah, it's really that's their means and method, right? I mean, they're going to charge us a price and however they get it done to the plans is kind of on them. If maybe they got a brother-in-law in the boring industry, I don't.
they didn't specify it out that we're gonna bore because they thought the state would want them to cut through their trail, or
I'm not following.
can you read their proposal, or what did we send them? Did it say they had to bore, or are they just assuming they?
No, it's just a plan. It's the improvement plan, engineered drawings, right? Sorry.
Specify boring?
No, we specify what the end product is. That's the engineer's plans. So I don't know if they didn't list the boring or the cutting. They're just listed it out as mobilization, erosion control, cleaning and grubbing, connecting existing manhole, putting in the manhole, the piping, and the riprap outfall. That's their categories. They split it into. So the outfall riprap is there. That's where it kind of feeds it so it doesn't erode the bank.
Steep bank too. It's like that.
Right, and I imagine that pipe's gonna come out 6-8 feet.
They're gonna have to dig in and put the rip and then have the pipe for it drops on the rip wrap.
And they'll probably cut it at an angle and do this version like they do with all the other ones that access.
What elevation it's gonna come out at, because if the water comes up on the Nahalem, the water ain't gonna go out anyway. Then it's gonna back up and cause a big mess of flooding across the road. If the river comes up high enough, outlets down there, it can't out.
Right there, it doesn't though.
Kind of a high bank there. It goes
Yeah.
over onto the old sword.
No, the elevation would be higher than it would go Swords. It would go that way towards Swords because that's where that bank's way lower in that spot.
I was thinking the same thing though.
Well, you said you're going down 10 feet and then you have to have downgrade the whole time. So what elevation is it at the other end? I was just kind of curious.
It's probably not very steep. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully the smart engineers have that figured out.
Right, the Madison and Cougar is how high the water got, 96 down there. So then you come uphill to all the southern,
Yeah.
but it comes uphill a ways, but
Yeah, I want to say that where the health center got cited, you have 7 feet. Because when we were picking that site for a high ground site, I remember it being like a 7-foot elevation difference between the 07 water and that site. That's just in my brain of remembering when they picked it, they had some criteria. They're looking for a high ground place.
Well, Bear Creek raises critically much sooner than the Nahalem. So if we're worried about it backing up because of the Nahalem, that would be an even larger issue with where it's currently diverted, correct?
Say that one more time.
If we're discussing that it could be problematic if the water level in the Nahalem rises to that point, but Bear Creek has much less amount that it can rise before it leaves its banks. So wouldn't that be an even larger problem currently? Could only be improved, I would think.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, when it gets that high, rest of the town's inundated anyhow.
Right.
It would come up out of the storm drain in the street. If that's gonna back up to that point, which, yeah, it probably shouldn't, because, water level never reached there, so.
Right.
It will well up in there. But during these events previously, Bear Creek was inundated. That line goes down and goes down here in Cougar, is it not, yeah, Cougar.
Yes.
And goes into that culvert in the middle of the street.
Right.
They tapped into that culvert in the middle of the street.
Mhm.
Is that the one where the sidewalk's sunken?
No, I'm talking right here,
Oh,
around the corner here past Grant's
Oh,
church.
okay.
So
Yeah.
it was we were kind of surprised. It goes right there, middle of the street,
Right.
that culvert. So once that culvert is basically at capacity, I'm assuming it's been backing up kind of this way too.
Right.
Kind of a catch 22.
Yeah.
Would probably going better to go to the river.
Yeah.
And Josette, to be clear that I'm understanding, by saying that it's currently being diverted unnaturally to Bear Creek, so where these buildings are, if that water was hitting ground instead, that would be naturally shedding to the Nehalem as is?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's permitted. It's just not the natural flow of it. So yeah, if there were no buildings there, potentially it would be saturating the ground and then breaking. Probably the health center towards the Nehalem would flow towards the Nehalem, and the health and Maple towards Bear Creek would flow towards Bear Creek, if that makes sense. The ground kind of has a topography there that half of it would go that way and half of it would go to the Nehalem. If there
Okay.
were no structures.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, it's more just, it's not really doing something new. It's kind of fixing how it was done to begin with.
Yeah, the only what's new is the stuff that would naturally have gone to the Nehalem coming backwards towards Bear Creek is how the health center and the senior center are doing that right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
so you say it's 10 feet down where they have to hook in?
Well,
That was
no,
just
I'm just saying there's a deep enough area that's 10 feet. That's not the whole distance, JR.
I was just in conversation with Jeff that it was.
Like, it's enough that you got to shore it is what we were talking
Right,
about.
well, there's a difference between pump jack shoring at 5 feet than coffin shoring, which is a whole different deal, which is a lot bigger trench and big, dragging a coffin through there with a big track hoe. And so, without looking at the plans, it's sometimes hard for me to tell if it was a rip-off bid or legitimate,
But our engineer's saying it was legitimate. So I don't think that's not why we're bringing it to you guys. We're bringing you the question of, can we use the ARPA funding for it or not?
Right, I understand that. And we were going to buy some equipment, but sounds like you want to infill with this money and then buy the equipment anyway, so
Well, we can't buy the equipment with ARPA funds. It's not
I
allowed.
understand that.
So
This looks like,
structure is the easiest way for us to spend this money. And that's
Where it exactly meets the criteria is what we're trying to do, so that there's no hiccups with spending it correctly by their 42-page document.
Report to the feds what we use it for. And if it's not legit, then we have to pay it back. So.
And where we thought they were encompassing certain things, when you get in the weeds of it, they're not. They're trying to be very specific, which is good. We want the federal money used for the right things.
You must have found someone to answer questions for you on that.
No, I found this big lengthy document that I read. It was really super fun. If you guys would like to have a copy, and I can happily share it.
I personally think it's a good opportunity for us right now to get the project done.
Yeah. I think sometimes we, as a small town, try to look for the cheapest way, which isn't the most efficient way, and sometimes languishes, and then that's frustrating to all of us if we languish with getting things done.
Yeah, I just think we kind of set ourselves up with a expectation up front on it.
Right.
Seems like I remember like
Oh, yeah.
$6,000 or something one time and kind of sticker shock.
Yeah.
You know, we want to make the most effective use of this ARPA money too. Yeah, it's free money, but it's not free money. It's, we try to make wise use of it.
Well, and if we can use it to do things we couldn't really afford to do in any other circumstance, I think that's where we can make the biggest difference for the citizenry, is not have to get a loan to do some of these things and use it pretty effectively.
The impact, you know, we're thinking rooftops over there. We got parking lots. I mean, I think if you added up the square footage of those three entities, I mean, that's a huge area where we're having one of those high impact rain events. That's
Yeah.
a lot of water moving to Bear Creek.
Well, luckily, I mean, I don't know how much you guys looked at the detail of the senior center, a little bit different than West Oregon and the health center. We have the tanks in the parking lot. So it can shed a whole bunch and hold and then slowly seep it out, where some of them are just the quick shed and out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the things that came in building that building third, was that holding tank type.
It's probably fine for the smaller flash events, but when we get a 3-day
Yeah.
rain event,
And it just keeps coming.
it's going to go at full capacity.
Yes.
And all three of them are all going to Bear Creek. So
Yeah.
I think the logic behind this is solid. We're going to have to bite the bullet.
I was down there when it rained hard in December, when they first started building that. It was like a river, a waterfall coming right across that foundation. It was like amazing the amount of water that was coming through there. I think they didn't even have the retention pond hogged out at that point, but it was a lot of water. It was surprising to me.
Well, we've been dealing with Bear Creek for a long time now, and we've had a lot of citizen concerns right in this chamber.
Mhm.
You know, not lately, but 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
back Dale and I walked, we checked out Bear Creek today, and we could see where I call it Lake Missouri now.
Missouri. Madison.
It's just this side of Randy's place
Right.
where it's backing up,
Mhm.
and where the sidewalk's going down, and,
Mhm.
you know,
Behind Nim's old place.
yeah.
I wonder, is there a culvert there that needs enlarged or repaired if we can use some of
Just
it?
can't get through that waterfall right there to go under Madison fast enough as it's coming. So it backs up like a bottleneck.
Or Madison,
It's-
Madison Reservoir, yeah.
Yeah, as soon as that county land transfers to the city there, then maybe we
Then we can work with the hydrologist
do on our
and
side.
create a swale and take it out of the back of those two homes.
Yeah,
Because
that
that
would help.
Open it up a bit.
culvert at Madison on the downstream side was fully backwatered today. And the top of the culverts had a third open, and the culvert down at Randy's was maybe only a third utilized. So it's that restriction there at Randy's, that riprap that
Brings it all
at the
up.
bottom, and then it's also a deposition zone, so all the sediment coming down the stream, when that water flows through there, it's building up the creek bottom.
Yeah.
So when we take that riprap out of there, she'll start cutting herself back down.
Yeah.
But we can drop it about 3 feet.
Yeah. Hell,
So
You say we still haven't got the county lots done? They haven't done it yet?
No. No.
Have you?
I can talk about that in my report.
Yeah.
I can bring it up to you in my report, some information on it.
Okay.
Okay.
so do we want to move ahead? And
I think that there's a win here because this isn't obviously a really glamorous use of the ARPA funds, but if we know that this is a really safe thing that we're allowed to use it for, and that we had budget money to put towards this project that'll now be freed up, then that allows us to choose things we would want to do with the ARPA funds for citizens that maybe weren't even going to be able to be on the table with the restrictions. So to me, I think, if obviously the cost isn't ideal, but if we need to bite the bullet and fix it, then this allows us to use other funds for things that we really want to get done.
Well, we'd budgeted
No.
in to buy a Traco, right?
Mini excavator.
With this ARCO.
Well, no, that was on your list of potentials. You guys didn't finalize any of it. It kind of was, here's the list of wants. And the only one that, a few of them got finalized was the trailer, the 10,000 for Columbia Economic. There were a few items that you said yes. The rest of it is still on a potential list that you haven't.
Probably should be having a workshop on and getting that moving.
Yeah. We could schedule.
So I didn't hear your initial words, Sharice.
Sorry.
What did you want to do? Did you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to do?
I would move that staff uses the ARPA funds for the Weed Avenue Stormwater Project.
Okay, motion's been made to utilize the ARPR funding of $79,850 for the Weed Avenue Stormwater Project. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second's been made by Counselor Webb. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie? Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor Norman,
Aye.
Counselor Ash,
Hi.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Snow removal.
Nope.
First Parks Committee, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Carol Calhoun. Has everyone read the applicant's application for Parks Committee by Carol Calhoun?
I did.
Good.
Yes.
She's been in the community a long time, almost, 48 years, something like that.
Some of the prettiest handwriting I think I've seen in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it's really, I mean, it's just.
Is Carol with us tonight? No. Okay.
You're making me feel old. Rick told me she's been here that long, so I remember when they come here.
Yeah, I remember when their house was almost new.
Well, do I have a general consensus from the Vernonia City Council to appoint Carol?
Good.
With that general consensus from the, Sheree. Sorry,
It's hard to see her.
you probably can, yeah.
What?
Can you hear what I said, Sharice?
Kind of. It cut out a little.
Okay. Normally on these appointments, I get a general consensus from the council of approval or denial. And then once I get council's approval, I will appoint that person to the committee. So it'll be official. So we have 3 other council members that have consented, give their consent to, for me to appoint Carol Calhoun to the Parks Committee.
Yeah, I feel positively about that. It looks like her previous community activities really are relevant and seems like a good appointment.
Oh, good. So with the general consensus from the Vernonia City Council, it's my honor to appoint Carol Calhoun to the Parks Committee. Congratulations, Carol. We welcome, I'm sure that committee welcomes you and look forward to working with you in the future. Snow removal.
So we aren't getting a snow plow till January.
Oh,
So we have the big orange is what we got. If it
Big orange.
comes down. You guys had talked about, and I did not get an answer from legal, but you guys had talked about, so ODOT does the highway. We do the big streets, state, bridge, section of roads. We do not have the capability and never have done all the little side streets. My road's never been really plowed ever as a side street. But we know that some people in the community do it. Most of the businesses pay those people. So when you see people out on tractors at Wana, that's a paid gig. But you guys had talked about maybe looking into whether or not we wanted to give some sort of gas stipend to people that are doing it. The tricky part with that is I still don't have the answer from legal. If by giving someone a stipend, do we take on their risk of liability if they were to accidentally damage something? That's what I wanted to know before this meeting, and I don't have the answer. So you guys could always, if the stipend is something you're really interested in, say yes, contingent on legal says it doesn't hook us to some sort of bad liability problem, if that's what you want to do. I don't know.
so we
Everybody-
have a snow plow that goes on the orange dump truck.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of getting it ready and,
Yeah, I think
It's ready to
I think
go.
it's ready.
Yeah,
yeah.
just the smaller one was going to be used to do the side streets and it's
I
ordered.
remember last year when we had snow, it fell the snow on a holiday. So
Yeah.
nobody from our staff came in and plowed snow. So I don't know.
It broke down last year.
Yeah, last year it broke down.
Almost broke down.
Yeah, he was out. It just broke down.
It's
And
fit an injector or something off the back.
In the city ordinances, it's the homeowner's responsibility and the business's responsibility to do their sidewalk. So I don't know what areas we're talking about where we would want it done, where it's not already someone's responsibility, or it isn't a business's kind of business benefit to do their parking lots, or you know what I mean? So I don't know exactly what you guys are thinking.
So when that happened, and I don't remember the name, but there was a pickup that had a plow and he did, I seen him up there at the school. He was helping up at the school, but then I started seeing him all over town. I think he started doing streets.
It was a red pickup with a
Yeah.
yellow plow.
And
Myers.
I think the cousin, he did some for hire, but I think he was also doing some stuff down around on some streets. So, the one time it was an idea of, well, why get the equipment ourselves? Just help reimburse these people for at least fuel. There's a lot of people with tractors in this town. So it was just an idea. But there again, if they're doing some of this work, it'd be nice to kind of get it a little more coordinated, because there's sometimes, depending on weather conditions, whether you really want to plow a street out or not, or if it's going to melt out, because we get these huge piles of snow packed up in the corner.
Right.
Damn things
Take forever to melt.
longer than if you just waited and let it melt it out. So,
Right.
That's the coordination part of it. But still, looking at what we might be seeing next week and beyond, it looks like it might be a reality again. And so,
Like 3 weeks of cold air coming.
oh yeah. And so, if this happens again, if I'd like to see at least the city acknowledge these people, and at least, they burn fuel isn't cheap anymore. And at least buy some of their fuel for them. So,
In the case of like Steve Weller, I think if you were to just hire him as a contractor, you'd have to pay his rate, then you're not worrying about liability.
Yeah.
with just a waiver that he could sign that we use.
Or you just pay him. You
Does
just-
that work?
We're just saying, instead of a stipend, if council's goal is to have the side streets done or whatever you're talking about, you would just hire that person as a contractor, then they're covering their own self and we're just paying them.
Just like when he hauls around.
Then we're paying wages.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but that's the tricky part is like, the other flip side is if you don't do it like a contractor and you do it like a stipend, will you have Joe and Bob and kind of random people coming in and saying, well, I did this street, and it gets a little hairy. So I'm trying to figure out what's really the ultimate goal of council.
And especially if they end up damaging something, they
Yeah.
hook a manhole or who
For
knows?
a valve.
Right out of
Rip their plow off or go on the
Right,
street, who's
right.
paying for that?
That's why I think the city should take care of it themselves. I mean, 20 years ago, I've lived on the same street for 30 some years. So I can think back at least 20 years ago or more, where Jeff or someone would be running around with a city backhoe and clearing. It wasn't a snow plow. They'd have the city backhoe beeping, running back and forth, at least knocking it down so an ambulance could get up. Or, I mean, not every time it has a little bit of snow. And we have a foot of snow, and boy, here come, so the school buses could go and ambulances and stuff. It wasn't, I don't know if they did every single one, but they did Mississippi, they did Arkansas, they did Missouri, getting up the hill to Corey Hill. And obviously they started with the biggest ones first, but they seem like they'd work at it for a couple of days. I just haven't seen that in a long time. So you said it says in our charter, we don't do.
No, I didn't say in our charter, because that would never, it's not that. I'm just saying that for the last 15 years, they've never done Lakeview. Get to the main drag yourself, people. I mean, and part of it is, it almost makes it easier to get to the main drag yourself, because sometimes when you plow and then it refreezes, it almost becomes more dangerous for some of those, especially the hilly roads like G and those ones, because then you're coming down a hill on ice. I mean, so it's just been the practice. It's not in the charter or anything. It's been the practice that we do the main drags that are those arterial ones that the collectors come to. So you bump around down A Street, you get to State, and then it's pretty good. And then you get to the highway and it's pretty good. So that's how the practice has been.
I think you have to use common sense, because there's sometimes where you scrape it off and the sun's going to pop out and melt the rest of it, and then you get a cold snap and it's clear. Sometimes you do it melts a little bit and then freezes, and you got a skating rink without rocking it, which.
Right.
So, yeah.
That kind of goes back to that coordinated effort of somebody kind of really eyeballing it and going, okay, this is how this needs to occur and when.
Right, but that's a little bit dreamland with like a 4-person public works crew. It's a little bit pie in the sky to think that in some weather event, there's going to be some coordinated effort with those 2 guys one running a plow, one running the backhoe, and the citizenry that wants to help. I mean, that seems logistically kind of a big task. Especially if it's a weekend or everything's closed and no one's at work. I mean, does that make sense?
Well, it does, but the reality is this is going on regardless of what we're doing. So some coordination with them would maybe be beneficial.
Do you guys have a fleet of citizenry that can't wait to jump on their tractors, or is that just because in the past
You're saying it that last episode. I mean, that pickup was brand, I've never seen that before. He's got the full yard there on the front end.
Does anyone know who that was though? Was it someone that came from somewhere else?
No,
No, they were
Here in Vernonia.
Oh,
They just school parking lot, right?
but that had to have been a hired job.
it's just somebody with an 8-foot Myers plow that he puts on it.
But that's what I mean. Those guys are typically trying to make a little winter cash, right?
I don't know
I
if
don't
the
think
school
so.
even paid
I
them.
think they were just trying to help out.
I doubt he would have done the school parking lot without getting paid.
Some people.
Oh, no, I've known a guy go.
I mean, because we know the one parking lot's a paying gig, but everyone wants to act like that was out of the kindness of someone's heart, and that's a business paying for that. Same with Randy. So I think we have two different versions. We have two different versions. One is business version, another one's kind of kindness of their heart. It can be the same person, but I think there's two different.
I know Steve Weller does it out of the kindness of his heart.
Not that he didn't.
Oh,
He gets paid for it.
He gets
Oh, yeah.
Roseview High too,
okay, well,
which I would do if I was him.
Yeah, I mean, we're not faulting someone for making the money because they should get paid. But what we're saying is, do we know we have these people that we should be giving a stipend because does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, trying to differentiate
Yeah.
paid from the volunteer stuff. I mean, my dad's taken his tractor and done around the neighborhood before, so, we don't care to get paid, but what I did see that pickup with the snowplow, he was all over town. And people were commenting on Facebook, so-and-so come down here and cleared our street.
Yeah, we have a reputation as the city doesn't do anything when it comes down to first.
I don't agree.
I'm just telling you, that's the perception.
From some people.
And they don't see anything anywhere. And then it's like, well, the city won't do it, so we're gonna have to do it ourselves.
Sometimes it sucks when the city does do it and you get stuck in your driveway. Whereas an hour before, you parked in that spot and it was fine because the road wasn't plowed. And then all of a sudden you have a huge berm. You can no longer park in front of your house or get your car out of your driveway. So sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing. It kind of screws you.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
In my own house.
I'd have a question for the police and fire, if they would rather just leave a foot of snow on the ground and wait and hope nothing goes bad, or how do you guys get around Top Golf?
Well, for us, the snow, I prefer it soft. I don't want to hard pack most of the time, especially going up these hills.
But it's going to hard pack because people are going to drive on it, right?
Actually, it's going to get that way. But often it's better if it's plowed and we can get our vehicles in and out.
But the EMTs last year, they just chain up and go anywhere.
Yeah, they just.
So they'll get there no matter what, is what Trish was saying.
several years ago when we had quite a bit of snow and the state pushed the big piles on our intersections and we had the big piles for several weeks. I mean, the city did do a really good job of doing the side streets and, we worked pretty well. Now, I've been in Michigan and when there's snow from November to April, and they have to remove it with front end loaders and dump trucks and, or they just piled up and they just live with it. But
So
I think of several years ago when we had a lot of snow, I think the city did do a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, last year wasn't working very good. It's a shame we didn't get a new plow yet
Mm-hmm.
when we budgeted it last.
We ordered it
months ago. We ordered it in July or whenever.
Wow.
well, we have a plow, we have a backhoe,
Yeah.
and they can see the storm is coming, so hopefully, I mean, I don't know how much else work goes on when
Yeah.
there's snow everywhere, is that they can step aside and do some snow removal instead of, I don't know what else you would do in a foot of snow, but
You still have to treat sewer and make water. I mean, that's the other job they're doing, even with snow.
And then when the cold comes, they're going to be out repairing.
Right, water meters,
Better leave that snow over the meters.
insulation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where we're at.
So do you guys want us,
It would still be interesting to find out from legal if we could, if we recognize this effort, these people are doing it, it's actually beneficial.
Yeah.
To be able to,
So do you guys want to put like a amount and contingent on approval from legal that doesn't cause some sort of liability problem? And then we'll just have it ready. Otherwise, we won't meet again until the 3rd is the next earliest date. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to do it and legal doesn't see a problem with it, then
So
it's
I have
already in place. Go ahead.
question. Are we saying we would do, I know you're saying it would be like logistically a nightmare to have someone coordinating at the time, but we're not just gonna say anyone who plows anything can get a stipend, right? Like there has to be stipulations thereof. It could be maybe coordinated via advanced directives of selecting people that are interested, identifying like what areas, maybe a minimum amount of snow that falls first, just to have some, because you could have half the city saying like, I plowed something, I want my
Well,
stipend.
right.
So,
That's why I'm saying we're in short order gonna see white stuff.
mhm.
And there are those kind of, to do it right, maybe that setup. So that's where I'm kind of like, oh man, and then we're going into the holidays so it's, yeah, it's all kind of a,
It's been about 10 months since we talked about this. Did Ruben sit on this for 10 months or has he never been asked, or because we were going to ask him last time?
I don't remember anyone asking me to ask him that question other than Dale and I talked about it today.
Oh, I thought I remember them having to talk to legal about it last time. I'd have to listen to the tape, but I thought that was settled by now.
I don't remember anyone asking me. Huh?
The site,
my mind don't go back that far.
No. What were you saying?
I know that if you guys have discussed a siphon or something to help the people, I don't know if it was a budget committee or council, but it has been discussed.
No, I remember it being discussed, but I don't remember anyone saying, hey, find out. So that's why I tried to find out today, but I was just from when we talked.
I don't know how it'd be an issue if they just signed the waiver like anything else, right?
But volunteers typically aren't paid, and that's a form of
They're
payment.
not paid, they're reimbursed.
It's a form of payment.
That's
though.
what they put out to help the city for free. I don't know how that's getting paid.
Volunteering, typically you're asking for nothing in return. With getting I'm not saying I'm against it or for it, but with getting reimbursed, you are getting paid for your efforts. And part of the issue before was a discussion surrounded Counselor Webb's cousin, which is a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So it didn't go any further, so that it's clear for everyone, that is one of the people we are talking about.
Yeah, I just don't see your point of how that's would be considered payment.
It's just that it's monetary exchange, JR. It's different than a waiver signed and work done for nothing. It's a monetary exchange, which tweaks it a little bit. That's why I said I need to get from legal if there's any problems with that.
But we still got the fuel tank. They could just go fuel up and you wouldn't have to exchange anything, right?
We don't have.
Same thing, you're giving, I don't know. You mean Jeff filling them up? What fuel tank is he talking
We
about?
used to have them,
I mean, that's what he's saying.
maybe they don't anymore.
We only have one in the back of a truck.
They used to have tanks back there.
Which is still.
Could we give them a $50 gas voucher?
Oh, money.
It's different how you paint it.
I mean, I get what you guys are saying, but and we're not poo-pooing the idea. Like she's saying, we just have to make sure that that doesn't trigger some kind of liability for us.
And then, like Counselor Ash is saying, what effort then warrants that from you guys' perspective? Is it just Jimmy doing his own street?
Yeah.
Right, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of need more clarification on what level of effort or
Yeah,
kind
and
of-
I also feel without hearing from legal, I don't know that a waiver would do it, because a waiver would say if the person doing the plowing gets hurt, we're not liable. But I think the concern is if they hit a citizen's mailbox and the citizen comes to the city, like a waiver is not going to protect from that.
Right.
I think the liability isn't to protect the person doing it, it's to protect the city
Right.
damages. So.
Well, no matter what, if we give them money or not, the citizens of this town have been doing this for 100 years on their own, and they'll probably continue to do it on their own, either way. So I think the thing was just to recognize them to some degree if the city wasn't going to do it. When we have these major events and you see somebody out there for 6, 8 hours using their equipment and clearing, I mean, ODOT comes through and puts big piles of snow where nobody can park, and then the city has to scoop that out of the way, right? Sometimes there's citizens that went down there and scooped it out of the way too. No, I think that was, I think what spurred it on was the response we had from the community and the lack of response that we had due to some mechanical failures from the city last year. Is what brought out the response on how can we help out the people that are doing it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and that's the part that's always bothered me is these people are doing it out of good faith, but it gets to be a lot of work and it gets, nowadays it's an expense, fuel and wear and tear on equipment and liability concerns. If they're not being recognized and, eventually those people just weed themselves out and it just goes away. It concerns me if we get a big event, our capability as a city to dig out from under this is, but it sounds like we would have the ability to contract.
Yeah.
We could go in, if we got into a 2 to 3 foot event that's going to stay here and we know we have to dig out in order to survive. It would probably behoove us to enter into some contracts with some people to expand our workforce.
Mhm.
But, that's one thing that concerns me. I mean, we've been lucky for a lot of years. It just doesn't seem like, I know my dad brought his skidder into town one time, oh yeah, I had to snowshoe in to get it, So trying to keep kind of build that relationship. These people that are doing it. And then if the need arises, we know our city, we're not geared up to it. I mean, either you're all in or you're not as a city to provide this type of snow removal project. And I don't think it economically makes sense for the city to be geared up full time all the time for it because we don't have it that often.
Mhm.
But if we can figure out a way to keep everybody happy, and when we do get a big event, the people that are carrying a major load are at least kind of made whole. We don't need to expand our equipment. That was kind of my point a long time ago. So yeah, I think Josette needs to look into the legal aspect of it. Sounds like we have an option if we get between the rock and the hard spot, we can contract.
Mhm. Well, and we could even have Ruben do a short contract and get with staff on what the requirements we need insurance wise from whoever, if we needed to contract, and turn around and interested people that could submit, here's my insurance, fill out this contract and be on the ready too.
Right. And be a coordinated effort.
Yeah, then we'd say, okay, we're doing this, you're doing this quadrant, you're doing this quadrant.
But And then also maybe we can be after the fact, if we get legal says, no, you could give them a stipend for fuel or something like that. It's not an issue. And maybe we have something we can after the fact.
Mhm.
Okay.
You bring that back to us on for the 3rd. How's that?
Yeah.
If we can get here by then.
I think back 30, 40 years ago, everybody seemed like 44-inch tires and drove four-wheel drive.
Oh, yeah.
And now a lot of people are in commuter cars and they got to get to work clear to Portland and the main roads are plowed. But if you can't get to the main road, you can't go to work. You're frustrated. Maybe if it's that bad, your work's not running, but sometimes in a valley, there's nothing there and you're sitting up here and I can't get out my side street 200 yards to the Highway 47.
I think it's a good idea that if we did get an event next week and people helped out and then we didn't reach a decision on this until the 3rd, that we could still retroactively compensate those people. But yeah, I just think it's important that we set up some kind of criteria for, if it's highlighting streets on a map that can apply, or saying some amount of new snow, because you don't want someone to plow on Monday and then, there's only half an inch of new powder and someone plows on Tuesday and thinks they're entitled to a stipend also, then, just needs to be stipulations.
Okay. Got it.
Sure.
Can you repeat what the direction was?
To get legal response to the liability of snow removal and potentially prepare contract and insurance requirements if we were going to hire it out.
Thank you.
Have one. So if we need some help, who are we going to appoint to direct people in the right direction?
What do you mean appoint?
So you got the city running their 2 snow removal tools. If we hire 2 or 3 more, who's going to direct them where to go?
City staff. Me.
Okay.
I'm going to find out from Public Works what they're doing, and then we're going to brainstorm, okay, we're going to have so-and-so do this. Yeah, so it's city.
I wanted to know who was going to be in charge.
Yes, if you have someone, if any one of you know of someone interested or someone's online knows of someone interested, tell them to contact the city so we have their name.
Perfect.
But keep in mind, you guys are the deciding body, you cannot do it for yourself.
Okay, moving right into business from departments. Chief.
So we have a November calls for service at 127. Nothing significant really in November. Code enforcement started out in November with 33 open. They completed 4 new ones, and now we're back at 34 open violations. Our hiring process, we're still at 1 applicant. I met with another potential applicant today. He's thinking about whether he's going to apply or not. That would bring us up to 2. I'd really like to have at least 5 before we go into putting together interview panels and testing and initial background stuff. So I have to make a decision on whether I'm going to interview the 2 we have, if the other guy applies, and move forth, or if we're still going to wait it out and see if we can get some more. Other than that, December, we did have a couple of mental health call spikes that generated probably some higher profile comments on social media. Not going to talk too much about those, but they're being dealt with. That's it.
So seems like we have kind of a rash of stuff going on lately. That's why I was kind of hoping we could somehow get this hiring process a little quicker than waiting for 5 if we might not get 5. But I was just wondering if council approved a hiring bonus, if that would help. I hate to do that because it seems a little unfair to somebody that's already here, but it seems to be the wave of the future to attract people.
Yeah, almost everybody is offering hiring bonuses right now. And I might reach out to some of the other agencies that are and find out when they implemented those programs, what they did with their current staff, because I'm sure current staff is going to be like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've done something or they came up with some other avenue to make the rest of the staff happy as well. And definitely something we can look at.
And I think council could authorize a $5,000 hiring bonus. It's within our power. Am I correct?
Where are you getting it from?
We don't,
Right out of the police budget that hasn't been used so far.
could probably do that, yeah.
I'm just thinking of options here to get more people to apply.
But I think those other agencies that are offering are having the same issues we're having, correct?
Some, yeah. A lot of agencies aren't getting the number of applicants that they used to. Even the ones that are offering hiring bonuses aren't getting the numbers. Unfortunately, and as much as I hate to say it, there's the atmosphere is not a lot of people want to be cops right now.
Well, if you are going to be a cop, this is probably one of the better places to do it.
So long as we're staffed up, it's a great place. We're working a lot, so. And you're not dealing with shootings on a regular basis and the higher profile stuff that happens in Portland and the bigger cities. So yeah, it's definitely a lot more comfortable, but at the same time, we're out here alone. Our nearest help is 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's not comfortable at night up there. No.
How do those hiring bonuses work? They have to is there a retention of at least 6 months or a year to get all of that? Or
Some of them they're doing a couple of different ways that I've seen where they're upon hire, they're giving a portion. And then upon completion of probation, they're giving the other portion.
which is at least a year, right?
That could be up to 18 months depending on who we hired. But yeah, it's at least a year, at least 12 months.
And it sounds like hiring somebody and putting them through the academy is pretty much gone away because there's no slots left. There's just such a huge demand now down there at the academy that.
Well, and I don't know if they're back to having their full classes or not, or if they're still running at a reduced rate. So I know.
Oh, they were talking on.
When COVID first started, they quit accepting people even for a while. And then I think they were restricted to the number of classes they were going to have going at the same time. So I don't know if that's still cut in half or if they're.
Yeah, I mean, what the news was reporting, because all the other police agencies are having the same issues. They said, well, we can hire somebody, but they got to go through academy. We can't get them through the academy. They said the only hope was the academy would open up their schedule more classes. Everything now is booked. So, and they weren't sure. It sounds like they're going to have to get additional funding for the academy to do that. And I think the special session, I don't know if they got it or not.
I haven't heard.
Yeah.
Well, if you think that would help, think about it and let us know. I know I would be open to discussing that.
Well, let me do a little research with some of the other agencies that are offering and how much they're offering. I can't remember what St. Helens was right in our current area. I know City of Bend, I know somebody that just applied there is offering $7,500. But of course, that's a big police department. So.
Well, if you look at where wages are and where it potentially could be after if we ever do the union contract, what's that number with what they're asking? We could get ahead of it this way maybe and try to get somebody to come on board.
Definitely something to think about. I would personally prefer to be hiring certified people right now than people that aren't. And the only way we're going to get that is with a hiring bonus and increase in salaries.
I looked at when I saw the ad posted on the city, that first number there didn't look real attractive to me.
Not
Living,
as an entry level, no.
even living here, then let alone if you're gonna get someone to commute from Forest Grove or Hillsborough or wherever, you know.
Well, the person that I spoke with today, I've known for quite a while. He's got better than 20 years law enforcement experience. And he cringed a little bit when I told him the starting wage amount. So, and that's kind of why I'm going to have to think about that a little bit. So,
And he would be a union police officer.
yeah.
So his years of service will count in the wage scale, right?
In theory, it should, based upon where it would fall in the contract. But unfortunately, we don't have money left in the budget to pay that top step. We've only budgeted for step 4, I think, for up to step 4. That's all that's actually in the budget currently. So we couldn't afford to pay him the top step because realistically, that's where he would end up, is pretty much the top step coming in the door.
Unless we did an amended budget or something. Well, let us know.
I'll do that.
And just to let the council know, the chief and I are meeting once a week now.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing to, just to,
Had to cut our meeting
Going on.
last week, but
yeah. Well, we got Wednesday coming up.
yep.
And I've also met the district attorney from Columbia County and had several conversations with him. In fact, he came out to Vernonia almost 2 weeks ago now and met him for the first time. And I can't say much about what's going on with some of the mental health issues that are pending now, but he's really willing to listen. And so it's a good thing. So having that relationship with our city and Jeff is a good positive thing. And so, yeah, it's good. Any other questions for the chief? Go ahead.
Talk to all of us.
So I'm kind of here for a lot of the people in the community. One person couldn't medically make it. And we thought there'd be other people, but and you probably have seen on Facebook that there's a lot of concern about the theft going around town. People are pissed. And I don't know if we still got a mafia group in town, but I mean, even Ernie went driving around, one night after he closed the bar, and he did talk to some kid on a bike that I don't know which one it was. I mean, I can guess, but anyway, I guess it goes back to you. Can't you get more patrols out at night?
We gotta have bodies. There's only so many bodies to go around, so.
Well, can't Sean be more at night than he is in the day, or?
Yeah, we're working on getting some adjustments. The issue,
What are they, I guess I'm not following what are you talking about? On Facebook, there are people reporting theft, or that's reported to the police department?
Well, probably both. People said they called the police on it.
yeah, we've gotten some theft reports. In fact, we were working with Washington County some because some of those individuals
Came.
during a rash. There was a
Well, I know
bunch of
some
stuff.
here happened in North Plains.
North Plains to Manning and all the way up here, and it's the same group. And we've got video, but of course, I probably shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're not working on that, but we can't be everywhere 100% of the time. And that's unfortunately, that's become an unrealistic expectation that I'm one guy and I can be 500 different places in town. It just doesn't work. And there's going to be coverage gaps. And as much as I hate to say it, unless I get 4 or 5 more cops, we're never going to have a complete schedule here. And there's always going to be those gaps. And Yeah, I could put everybody on nights and we could work night shift, but the first time something happens during the day or the first time somebody has to go to court, then they didn't get a sleep and now I have no night shift coverage again because they've been up for the last 24 hours. So there's a whole lot of dynamic in play when it comes to the law enforcement scheduling and why, but the call volume in the middle of the night is so much less than it is during the daytime. It would not be a good idea for us to move all of our people into the night shift. I mean, I've literally had 0 calls since about 3:30 this afternoon, but I had 7 before that. So I don't know if that gives a little more idea why we have a little bit more presence during the daylight hours.
Yeah. The guy goes to the, down like at 1 o'clock. It's like, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
When that last cop goes home.
They do every time. I mean, and a couple of the groups that have been coming around, especially the catalytic converter groups, we've found that they're using portable radios to talk to each other. So they've got lookouts
Oh, my God.
going all over the place. And even if we were driving down the road, they already know we're coming. They're already gone. So there's a lot in play, and it's going to take more staff and more brainstorming, I think, to fix the problem. And not all of it, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to say that we've got our little group and we know exactly who they are and we can go after them. We're getting people from other towns coming in here and committing these crimes. And we can't look at the video and go, I know that guy.
Yeah. And then wearing masks, you can't even
Yep.
see. I just know the one video was a girl. Yeah, I watched the video and then a screenshot when she was looking forward. But that's like the group that I am out here, it's not a girl. So I figured they must have been out of town, very organized.
Yeah.
But like 3 people in a car and they just all went different directions.
Some of it must be local because it seems like one of the citizens got some of her property.
There definitely is some local going on. We know some of them. But we haven't caught them with anything on them per se. We've seen them out and about floating around town. And some of these times things have been reported, but we don't.
Not a crime to be not a crime to walk the sidewalk at night.
Yeah, I watched hours of video from our police department stuff, and we know some very specific cars that we're looking for, and we see them go by at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we know they're out there doing something, but what? And then sometimes 4 or 5 days later, we'll get a report of something, but we don't know when exactly.
Just slip a tracker on some of those cars.
Would be nice.
That's illegal.
You have to get probably a warrant for that, right?
And some of the issues too, one of the houses that we're dealing with code enforcement stuff with is, I'm not going to talk about that yet.
I think Susie brings up a concern though, and every time these events happen, and they're good people in this town, but they're getting close to the edge of becoming
Absolutely.
lawbreaker. And I really hate to see some of our good people in town end up in major trouble because they're trying to protect themselves and their neighbors. And it's why we do have a police force. Back to the snowplow thing, you got enough capacity or you don't.
We have police. I'm not so sure the force is there.
And yeah, and I don't know. I've got a few ideas I need to come down and talk to you about. I don't want to advertise it over the airwaves. There's some ways we can do a little force multiplication. We're still going to need officers though, but to be able to do something when we do know what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there might be an opportunity for the citizenry to get involved. I don't know that I don't think the city can sanction anybody being out on the streets roaming patrols because, we can't stop you. but you really better stay in your lane because you're going to be the easy target for the police to come after. You live here.
Well, and some of the stop and frisk rules have become a little more difficult for us. So we have to be careful doing that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, and for an average citizen to get involved, it's just a nightmare. But there's going to be a point where people snap. I mean, people work hard
I agree.
for things that they have, and they take it pretty hard when things are getting stolen. And you know what kind of community we live in? It's full of guns.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and you know,
they take it upon themselves to educate somebody, and then we're going to have a real problem.
and I look at some of that as a positive because unlike some communities, Vernonia is that they always look out for each other. And it's good, as much as I don't like reading the negativity all over Facebook, but it's good that this community does look out for each other and they're paying attention. And no, I don't want anybody involved in a shooting over 5 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. And I'll tell people that all day long. If they want to steal your gas, let them steal your gas. And don't go out there and get yourself hurt. Don't go out there and get yourself in trouble. In the end, next week when the reports are written and everything's done and you used unnecessary force for 5 gallons of gas, you're in a whole lot of trouble all of a sudden.
But in the heat of the moment,
A couple of people suggested putting sugar and water in it and so when they go put it in the gas tank.
Oh, we'll find their car.
Probably go fill gas again.
Do you ever do like a newsletter to the community once a month or something? Give tips to people?
Not once a month. We did some stuff years ago and then it's kind of festered out. And there used to be a kind of message from the chief thing that went in the newspaper and then the newspapers changed. But we haven't done too much. And we've got the social media page. We probably could be using a little bit more. It might be helpful. Having time to sit and type stuff up.
I'm just thinking of ideas that might help the citizenry who says, hey, the chief, here's what's going on and this is what he's trying to do and this is what he's trying to hire and lock up your stuff and lock your cars and,
The locking stuff's been an issue for years.
don't leave stuff out in your yard strung all over.
I don't know how many times I've told people, why did you leave your gun in your front seat? This is Vernonia. Yeah, and people steal stuff.
I've been robbed about 4 times, so this Vernonia stuff doesn't really cut it for me.
But yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard, this is Vernonia. We always leave our chainsaw back there. Well, you probably shouldn't anymore.
I want to thank you, Susie, for being here, voicing your concern too. We need more citizens like you. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope nobody feels they can't come down here and talk to us. So takes a little bravery to come down and speak up, which I appreciate. So I know you weren't the only one. You saw there was some stuff on Facebook going around. I didn't know if there was going to be 100 people here tonight or 0. So people cool off usually in a couple of days, but you see that pattern of rash and I wonder who got out of jail back in town, but I know there is
Well, it is interesting to come down and find out, more stuff of what's actually going on in town. For instead of people complaining, if they come down and hear, what you're doing.
That's right.
The mental health stuff over just the past couple of weeks, and I cut Rick and I's meeting a little bit short one day for a 2-hour standoff with a barricaded person in a car at 11 o'clock in the morning. So
I saw that.
I'm trying to weigh out those schedules is what's more important for us, when it's more important for us to be here. It's difficult and it can be challenging.
In fact, Chief had to leave our meeting.
yeah.
And how quickly the county responded. It was amazing how quickly they secured that area. I mean, it was about 15 minutes and the whole area at Minimart was secured.
a little longer than 15.
Well,
I was standing there talking to the guy for at least 30, so.
yeah, but I mean, within 30 minutes, or OSP, Columbia County, and us were there.
That's who are.
Well,
Since you're here, Susie, how are things going at the lake?
Nice and quiet.
Good. Good. I just wanted to thank you. I think you're doing a great job down there and parking enforcement and whatever, so. I
I
think,
got my new 2022 stickers for those people that are gonna come down the first of the year.
oh, yeah. Don't ticket me again, please.
well, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Ordinances and resolutions.
You already did it.
Okay, yeah. Correspondence. City Administrator report.
Okay, so my report was short and sweet because of issues going on in my own life. So the restrooms, they were finishing up the painting and then Webfoot,
They were out today.
they were out today.
They started. They should be done by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday, right? Thursday afternoon, or sorry, Thursday morning, I'm going to go and attend the hearing at the county for the defendant that broke the windows. We're still working with Martin Glass, still trying to get the amount of flat, clear glass we need so that we don't have to replace the whole windows. Backsplash got installed for the Rose Avenue building. We were hoping to have the acoustical paneling start today, but we had a issue with humidity and the paint in the Anderson Park bathrooms and the surfactant coming to the surface. So painting took a little longer for Mitch and Tim than they anticipated. So the acoustic paneling will start once they're dialed in there. I'm still waiting on Blake to finish the transfer switch so that Power Systems Plus can come do the startup. And we'll have a representative from both tenant agencies as well as city staff to know how to initiate that, should that building need to become a kind of safe housing emergency center on this side. So I'll get the how to start and transfer the power to the generator lesson with the two groups. We're still waiting to get the footings installed and the conduit for the reader board. The county lots. So the county had sent over a list that was the list of the flood buyouts. They had included 2 properties that the county had received for either back taxes or just got turned over in that list that would not have the restrictions of the flood buyouts and that could be sold by the city were we to take them. The issue is one of the properties has a old manufactured home and an outbuilding that a tree's fallen through. So I'm contracting with Dan Brown, a community action team, to have his testing auditor go out and do hazardous materials testing before I present you guys with the list so that we know all of what could be on that property. And we know if it's a good deal for us to take it, even if we have to remove the little squish manufactured home and the outbuilding, or if it's a bad deal and we need to take it off the list before we transfer the list of properties. So that's why you haven't seen that list, is I'm waiting on that testing. So there's 2, one of them's out on Juniper, and I don't know if anyone knew Frank Cecil, it's his old property. A fir tree fell through what was left of his little single wide there and the outbuilding. That's one of the properties that does not have a restriction. It came to the county's hands by him passing and then the veterans and taxes not getting paid. Could be for sale. The city could sell it, but I don't want to propose you guys take it till I have all the information known. So that's where we're at with that. Because the county wants to do one transfer of all this list a collective list at one time.
So when is the hazardous mitigation going to get done?
Well,
I mean,
well, I had sent Dan emails at the mid-November for him to get me the pricing of what that would cost and everything, and I haven't gotten back to him. So, I mean, I haven't heard back from him, so I gotta recheck it. Or if he's not able to do it, I just need to go the other way out of Columbia County and get a firm to come out and do it. But I figured they were going to be more cost effective than that, because if we don't, we're going to pay the bill whether we take it or not, right? We're going to have that cost whether we take it or not. So I didn't want to blow $500 if I pay into the county, someone in the county to do it for.
so if we didn't take it and the county auctioned it off, wouldn't they typically auction it off as is? You take it the way it is?
They've had it listed and no sellers, but it's got a building that a tree fell through. I don't know who would want to buy that. Like,
That's weird. I've looked on their site and I didn't see anything around Vernonia.
they had it listed, but with the realtor. Same when they,
The fire sale list, like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Not this year, but
and they had it listed with the realtor the same time they had 1010 State listed with Bob the Realtor. Do you remember the sign that said Bob the Realtor? And they had no takers. So,
Wow, that's surprising. 'Cause I mean, you could flip it.
yeah,
I mean, remove it.
a person could, sure. Yeah,
And that'd be elevated, I assume.
yeah, it would.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with when you brought up the county lots, that's where we're at with that.
Okay, because I know, I thought the commissioners were pretty eager to get that done. I was just wondering if it
Yeah,
was,
they were.
It sold,
I thought you said legal was holding it up a while back, so I was just.
their legal finally got to our legal and had this list. And I'm like, wait, these aren't on our list.
Couldn't we just, tell them, we'll take the lots and we'll deal with these other two things later? Or-
Now they want to do it all at once, so.
Yeah, but that's not part of the deal. Really, it was the flood lots they hounded us about for 2 years.
Their legal, their paperwork, their agreement to transfer is all of those on the paperwork. And I said, we're not going to sign that until I know what these two actually are.
Yeah.
So that's why I never brought it to you. Or haven't brought it to you in a month, because it's been November, beginning of November when Sarah sent over the big paperwork.
It wasn't lots of day health money, FEMA, buyout, anything, just extra lots.
Yes.
Oh.
Lots that they had at some point listed with a realtor because we were fighting them on code and they put them up for sale.
Oh, they're in bad shape. Junk.
No, code for tall grass or,
Oh. Okay.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, we were like, hey, come mow. And they were like, well, it's for sale. They're not going to mow.
They wouldn't even reimburse us the fuel.
They would not.
How did that make you feel? Kind of like the snowplow people.
Well, we just let it go until the neighbors called and then they brought their mower over and did it themselves. But yeah,
That's another issue I wish we could solve, is how to make it more friendly to lease these lots to the neighbors that actually are still taking care of them and without spending $2,000 a year to do it.
I don't know that there's any way to get around the bare land tax. The county, when it transfers hands, the county's going to require that.
Yeah, the tax is one thing. It's just, that I think the cost of the insurance was just so high last time someone was in here talking about it. Has anybody ever leased any yet? I guess we don't have them.
No.
We can't.
There's some of us patiently waiting.
Yeah, I have letters from all the ones I have to respond that say they're interested. And I think it's all in how you detail it out too, because I have a hard time believing it would be real, if you're not doing any structure, how bare land could be that much. I don't know. I mean, we heard from one person what their experience was. I don't know.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody would say, I figured it out. It's not that bad.
I don't know. Because I would think it'd be crazy if your policy went up that much for bare land. I could see it going getting added a little, but that number did seem high. So we'll have to see. But that's what I know about the county lots.
So you're going to bug them again and then go a different.
Yeah, I'll just say if you don't have the capacity, I'll go higher out this way.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a long time to wait for a reply.
Well, it is, except it's November with holidays and stuff, so it's weird. Everyone's weird in November and December, agency wise.
Okay, any other questions for?
Yeah, on the transfer switch, when is that going to actually get installed?
When the electrician, it's in,
Yeah.
it's just not all connected for the startup.
Right, when's that going to happen? Because we've been talking.
And when the electrician will do it,
Can he give you a date?
No.
Why not?
because
I'd get a new electrician if he can't give you a date on when he's going to do something.
it'd be nice if we had that many electricians out here. We don't. They don't like to come out here. They like to charge us a lot of money.
Mr. Electric's right here in Vernonia. I think maybe call him if they don't want to show up.
Mm.
I don't understand that. They won't give you a date.
They were, we've used most of the electricians in the area, JR, and everyone's in the same boat.
They're booked out.
They're booked out or they have, I mean, it's not gonna, we've had the same experience with all of them on their queue. When they get to you, they get to you. Is kind of how it goes. And I'm talking every version of every company here has done work in the city buildings and it's all the same.
So the transfer switch is in, but they got to get from the fuse box to the transfer switch.
Yes,
And the transfer switch is manual, you said, or is it automatic?
it's automatic.
Okay, because you said something about teaching them how to run it.
Teaching them what to do because they need to know what's going to happen, right? What, if there's anything that needs to be turned off, turned on, checked, what things, because it's going to pop a whole bunch of different things in that system.
Oh, it should just be like a 2 or 5 second delay and kick on or something. Maybe there is something they need to switch on later or switch off. I don't know.
Okay, anything else? Items from the mayor and councilors.
Oh, got the one issue we discussed today was the deer issue.
Yeah,
We don't seem to have a timely way of being able to dispatch a injured deer in town. The last incident was up by the fire station, ended up being a state trooper, happened to come over from St. Helens. Oh, I think we talked today with Josette about that. Can we come up with some process, somebody internally that can do that? I don't think that you have to use a firearm to dispatch an animal, so that would alleviate a lot of concern.
yeah, we talked about kind of a protocol of making sure we're doing what ODF and W requires, whether it's a notification ahead of time, potential screening. If we aren't using a firearm, there may be the need for screening from the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking into that. Hopefully we'll have more information at your next meeting.
Look into a bolt gun. That's what they do horses.
Yeah.
They used to call Fred Oviatt out at night and so is there nobody on duty?
There's humane ways of putting down an animal that doesn't require having to use a gun.
Yeah.
Some of it might look just like at the fishing
That's what,
swimming pool. Sometimes people think it's brutal, but it's actually the most humane way of dispatching an animal.
Right.
Force trauma, the right spot, with the right tool. And I've done that several times myself on road. People left cripples in the road for me to clean up. So, anyhow, but we need to have a timely response. I don't know how long that went on the other day, but it went on way too long.
10 hours.
Yeah. I mean, for an animal to suffer that long, it's just not excusable for us as a civilized world to allow that to go on that long, so. I don't know, that's just something we're gonna have to develop. I got one phone call on it, and there was a couple of people that were pretty urgent trying to get a solution, so.
Well, it happened in their yard, so they called me too.
It's here in city limits.
Yeah, it was right across the street from my house. It got hit at like 1 o'clock in the morning and my daughter picked it up and moved it out of the road because it was just out there kind of flailing around, and it survived for 10 hours before. And she called 911 and they were not going to send anyone. And first they said they were going to send someone. Then they said, we're not sending anyone.
What about our police?
It was county coverage at the time.
County was covering it.
Yeah, so it wasn't something they were gonna come over.
Called me, I went down there and took care of that thing.
Well, the problem is that to fire a firearm in the city limits is against city ordinance. So we want to do whatever it is so that we either authorize someone, if that can be done, or something that we have, CCOM could have a number to call of someone that we've already networked with to dispatch animals, so.
I think Dale volunteered.
Yeah,
Well, but that's what we're working on. He's giving you guys the heads up that we're working on laying that out so that it doesn't have to happen again like that.
I've had that situation where you try to call these agencies that you pay all this tax money for, and you're up here in Vernonia, and they laugh at you. They're not going to come up here for a hurt eagle or a bird hit your house and it's laying there. So they want you to somehow catch it, crate it up, haul it into the Portland Zoo, but they're not taking animals right. I mean, it's a bureaucratic nightmare.
Yeah, and we want it to be someone who legitimately knows
Animal control.
that, well, or that the deer, there's no recovery going to happen. The injury is sustained.
That rehabilitate them.
no, they won't.
No, they won't. But I'm just saying, like, there's one thing with something being stunned and sitting in an upright position on like a picturesque deer. And there's a whole nother thing with it
Flop it.
having seizure or, yes,
They're backwards.
injured back legs not moving, all that. Yeah.
Typically, if they're stunned, they're 30, 40 seconds, they're up and going, but if they're going to go, but.
So that's what he's mentioning, that we're working on that.
I guess I was out of the loop on that, but good thing I was. I would have went down there and tried to sledgehammer it or something. My wife doesn't, she's babies about the deer. It just breaks her heart when one gets sick.
Yeah.
Happens.
We kill a lot of them in this town. I think they said there were
There's
7
more.
there last year,
Yeah.
that area.
Domesticated.
They are forest dogs, basically.
The yearlings from the church, I'm sure.
Not necessarily that we kill them. Sometimes they kill themselves.
Well, they do, yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
Make sure your antifreeze is down really low levels. I mean, as far as 0. Don't get caught with protected to 25 degrees, because if some of this comes to fruition, you'll have a broken block.
Oh, I like the Christmas lights and
No, I do too.
wanted to thank the Intercultural Society and the city staff. Everybody's involved. It looked like there was 2 poles with nothing. Are they just no plug?
We've been trying to figure that out. I think they're all electrified, so I don't know why those 2. I gotta talk to Nicole if there's something went on there. I don't know. They have more lights in their office, so I'm not sure. The ones right by Black Bear and then across the street. Now, no.
2 together. I thought, well, maybe they weren't working or something.
Was there a whole team of people doing the lights on?
No, it
2 people?
was Lynn and,
Lynn Shaw.
And Barney?
yeah,
They were I seen them, but
plugged them in. They did the thing.
if they were the sole people. Or
Yeah, they did the round, but that was their participation this year was
Wow.
getting them wrapped.
That's a lot of work.
Looks good.
I've heard a lot of positive comments, so.
Lights the street up.
Looks really nice.
There's light downtown now.
Yeah.
Yeah, then there's a bunch of street lights out. Someone's gonna get with West Oregon Electric on.
Yeah, so we already have a map. Those have already been reported, so.
And did we get the holiday basket over to those people?
Yep.
Good. I bet they appreciate that.
Didn't say anything.
They didn't send us any notes or anything yet.
That's
Well-
a gift though.
Huh?
The point of a gift is to give it, not to receive the thanks.
Yeah.
I don't get a thank you note
The
yet.
job of the gift's big in the giving.
Sign me off your list.
And I had a discussion with one of the board members about that, and we were sending that, trying to maybe build back our relationship. And it sounds like the staff over there might be, now with the new director, might be wanting to rebuild that relationship. But they did say they might want to send us a bill for $84,000 for storing our pipe on their property, but I think our pipe.
That sounds like great relationship building.
But no, I think it's we can build back with beneficial both ways. Yeah.
That wasn't correct, was it?
Speaking of that pipe, I asked Josette if she can move it to our warehouse just because during the holiday season and people come in our town and it got moved. Looks a lot better without it.
I didn't notice.
Hasn't been there for a while. though.
More thing, Joseph, the contractors unhooked the power to our light that lights up Welcome to Vernonia. Remember when they built the parking lot and they cut the line? Then you were going to ask them about that?
Oh,
Yeah, so that's on our electrician's list to remedy that.
Yeah, Just said it's beyond just
He's gonna have
quick
to,
fix. It
he's
has-
gonna have to do pull new line.
Well, at least the section they ripped out, right, or something?
Yeah. So that, we've talked to Blake about that, our electrician.
Oh, good.
wow, where were we powering that from?
So it was getting power back here by the, what I believe is by the end of Weed. And when they put that in, they cut it. Yeah.
That was quite a run then, huh?
So it's not coming off a breaker box somewhere, just coming off a light pole tower or something? or-
Yeah, the old yes, before the senior center was there, yes. And then we had talked because Nicole was like, hey, we want to do the little Christmas trees, but then they put them over here, but then they haven't been lit up. So I got to talk to her about, are there issues we need or?
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard from her like, hey, this isn't working, but they weren't on the other night, so. And they're cute, so they should be on.
And then we discussed about, we didn't have much on for the January 3rd regular council
Currently
meeting.
don't have any, we'll just have minutes because we'll have to get it out by Wednesday, the packet. And so we didn't know if you guys want to have it. And then we know you kind of don't like sprung additions to the agenda, but that's what it would ultimately kind of end up being if we hold a meeting.
We could push it a week, right?
Well, you'll have a meeting the second Tuesday, or sorry, second Monday. It's or is that a holiday? No, that's the third. The second Monday is the city administrator's quarterly
The
evaluation.
10th, we have the quarterly for me. Then the 17th, you have a council meeting. Then the 24th, you have the work session. So you have 3 meetings next month. The third would be the 4th meeting of the month. And we as staff are telling you, we don't have anything prepared for you to decide on
Okay.
currently. And in 2 days is when we'd have to get the packet out to you. So-
I wonder if we could do a work session on some of these topics that we've been wanting to do stuff on instead.
I don't know. It depends on what it is.
Yeah, we're still going to only have 2 days to get you the information is what we're saying. So if depends, what do you want to talk about? Maybe we can pull it off.
We said we needed to have a workshop on this.
Well, there was several items.
I know it.
And we have we were going to talk about, we were going to talk about the whole structure of the city, wages and tiers and drug testing. There were several items that come out of that you wanted to talk about, come out of the budget process. If you can remember what they were, but there were some that we hadn't really flushed out yet. And then there's a couple other items, like, for right now, I'm drawing a blank, but
Yeah, me too. I know we mentioned something earlier and I can't remember what it was. Something triggered.
I think earlier we mentioned the ARPA funding.
yeah.
Discussing what other the ARPA money.
ARPA money.
Yeah, because I kind of had a short list going on that, just some projects that, before it all gets taken up, there was, like the lake docks, ramps falling apart.
They don't fit.
There's, what?
They don't fit the criteria.
Well, it brings in tourism, I'd go into that. Right?
But I think it has to be tourism that's related to COVID.
Like we have a campground and it was shut down due to COVID and we lost $10,000.
We did shut down the lake.
The lake, no, we didn't. And we made more money at Anderson. I was just giving an example of a tourism impact from COVID.
So if you guys want to talk ARPA, we could go back and get the list of things, tell you which we now find don't meet the criteria, and you could have that discussion on the 3rd if you want to do that.
You got enough time to do that?
Yeah, we have all the lists.
Yes, so.
Yeah.
I
Want to do that on the 3rd?
keep pushing on that, but I don't want to wait till a minute and have all these projects piling up and
So
miss.
work session or a regular meeting, because you might want to make decisions.
Let's have a regular meeting.
Okay, and that'll be the one item, is the ARPA.
Unless you bring
discussion.
back some stuff on the deer and the snow plow.
In the snowplow.
Yeah, but I won't have that probably in 2 days, is what I'm saying. So the ARPA is a safer bet, is what I'm saying.
And then, is it possible to use some of this on the museum fix?
I don't,
Be a stretch.
yeah,
Is it shut down for COVID?
I don't think so. I think they were
The
open
county
there.
runs that, so
Yeah.
The county's still willing to go 50/50 with us. Have we had any movement on?
Yeah, I have not heard that from any official at the county.
That was my conversation with Riley, is he called me back that said he had talked, Riley's in charge of general services.
Right. Riley has not contacted us at all. So that's,
Right.
I have a little bit of an issue when you guys talk to people that are promising you things that are not staff, that are not the representative that would have to say yes or no on the money. Then it's kind of like there's an in-between person between the people you guys pay and the people they pay. When it should be those two entities talking.
Obviously, you have to get approval from the Board of Commissioners, but
Right.
their general consensus was, obviously, or they had Riley call, they would be willing to partner because they know about that back wall. We know about it. If we don't do something about it, it's going to just be ruined pretty soon.
So who did Riley call?
Called me.
Why?
I don't know.
So when he called you, did you say call City Hall? No. Okay.
We talked about it at council, you weren't present. And then you were going to get some bids on it, is what staff said. And then I just heard that our staff went up and looked at it, and then I haven't heard anything since.
had a contractor look at it and he said it was going to be a lot.
I mean, I'm sensing that you don't want to fix the museum. Am I sensing that?
No, what you're sensing is frustration that you guys are in the weeds of the staff's job. That's what you're sensing is my frustration with that, because you guys shouldn't be talking as elected officials to the staff that I'm going to have to talk to and negotiate with, because it just gets really discombobulated. That's my frustration.
Well, we could talk about funding the museum with ARPA funds in
Yeah, we can,
our
yeah.
coming January.
I think you're taking it the wrong way. I think I was trying to find a solution where we're trying to spend this ARPA money. Everybody's like, how are we going to spend it? And then it's like, hey, that museum needs fixed. And then I was told the county owned it. So if I'm talking to a commissioner or something, it comes up, then I found out we own it. So I think there was some miscommunication there.
I think you heard that we owned it from staff. At the meeting that it was discussed, you asked questions. Then the following meeting, we brought answers, and we were going to get bids to see how much damage there was and what cost might be associated. That's the last time we discussed it. And, no, yeah.
I think there was also discussion around, there might be a grant process through the Historical Society.
Correct. We brought that report from Josette, that she was working with Toby on those funds.
So how's that going, the grant process?
Honestly, JR, I have no idea.
Ready to move on?
Well, I'm just trying to, I was told there was a grant process. I was just wondering if it was going or not.
So may I speak?
Sure.
I think this falls into the no surprise rule where it's requested for council to bring questions to staff so we can bring the answers to the council meeting so that people aren't caught off guard and it doesn't become a conflict.
You also realize that her life has been upside down for 2 months. And all of this badgering is not helpful at all.
No.
I don't feel I was badgering. I'm just trying to get, if they say we're going through a grant process,
Grant processes are very lengthy. They're very detailed. It's not, you're never going to get a fast answer. Especially something with this historical society. I can't even imagine how long that.
and that's what I'm trying to avoid, is this another 10 years trying to chase down
Right.
on a historical building when we have this money available.
Hey, but this came up 2 weeks ago, a month ago, this idea. And the fact of the matter is this ARPA money that we're getting, we should really be using for infrastructure that benefits the whole community, not just decide to spend it to fix this building. But yeah, well, it shouldn't go away because it's part of Vernonia, but it's rarely used. They don't bring in any money. I don't even know if they even have very many visitors up there. And personally, I feel like it'd be a huge waste of these funds to earmark it for that right now, where we have all of these other public works things that we should be using this money for. It's way more beneficial for the community as a whole. And if there's some other route to try to help the museum fix that issue, which we as staff didn't even know was a problem until you brought it up. And we've never maintained that building. It's never been on the city's radar to maintain it. And then just to drop that bomb and then, you know, I get that you want movement, but it's none of this stuff is quick. And especially this grant thing, that's going to take some.
I was trying to get what's the consensus, because the councils acted like they were interested in moving forward with a partnership on it. And then I sensed from staff that, well, we don't really like that idea. We're not going to do that, or we're going to go with this grant thing that's never going to happen. I just want to know, and I'm glad you're telling me how you feel about it, but I don't feel that way about it because I think it holds our history. There's 5,500 pieces in there. What are we going to do with it all if the building rots away?
Maybe they should have been thinking about that before now.
So
I know. I mean, the county's been putting it off, but I don't know if it's in our lease to maintain the building we own.
There's nothing in the lease that says anything about maintenance on either side.
But
The lease is garbage.
they did put some money into a wheelchair ramp recently and a new roof.
which is weird that we own it, but they're doing that.
Yeah.
So that's the other weird part. Sorry for my exit. With my dad passing away and just burying my dad 2 days ago, your questions and that this has risen to a priority level when it's not even a city project. It's not even on your priority list. That you guys are bringing up this kind of thing is really frustrating because you told us this is the priorities, work on these things, and you're still dropping air bombs of these extra things that have nothing to do with what you have us working on. And you're grilling us about something that's not even on your list. That's unfair. That is not making a conducive place for us to come and try and do the work of the city When somebody brings up something, they didn't even call us ever and tell us there was a well problem till they told you or however you found out. And now it's supposed to be priority number one where it's being discussed when there's a whole bunch of other things ahead of it.
Well, I wasn't saying it was priority number one. We're talking about ARP funds. And that's what spurred my memory on it.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. I've already said once, we're going to put it off till January and talk about ARPA funds. And so I don't want to get in a big discussion now of who didn't do what, or I want to finish this meeting in a short period of time. We're almost ready for the action item summary. And I'd like to move on with the meeting, close the meeting. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Ready for the action item summary, Josette?
Okay, so we have that staff's going to move forward with the Weed Avenue Storm Project using the ARPA funds you guys have designated. We're going to send the appointment letter to Carol Calhoun for the Parks Committee. Sign the IGA and move forward using the county justice adult group for abatement projects in the future. We're going to get for you guys for the next meeting where we can get the information, the legal response for liability of snow removal from citizens, and prepare potentially a contract and insurance requirement if we were to contract for snow removal. And then we're going to prepare for this Wednesday packet, the ARPA discussion, the items you guys had discussed using, and potentially send you the criteria thing again so you can have a look at that and see what we're seeing. And that's what I have. Did I miss anything?
Anything else? Well, I'd like to reverse course and try to I don't know what, I'm kind of at a loss for words. About the only thing I can say now is everyone have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, but thank you. And I will adjourn this meeting at 9:25 PM. Meeting adjourned.